Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen and folks. It's great to be able to come to you via online and video this with you. We're here at Westland Lutheran Church, sitting in the sanctuary in God's presence. Wherever two or more are gathered, He's here, so we thought that this would be a great place to be. My name is Greg Lord, and I'm the Vice President of the congregation here at Westland Lutheran. I've invited a special guest, a longtime member of this congregation. He and his wife, Carr, have been very good friends, been leaders in this congregation. So this afternoon, I'm going to ask some questions of Steve Carr, who is sitting here to my left, about what he feels important in the church, why he does what he does, and his feelings and passions. So with that, Steve, why don't we just go ahead and get started and kind of like have like old Roosevelt, President Roosevelt used to do. He'd have a fireside chat. So we're going to have an altar chat. And so I thought what I'd do, I have some questions here for you, so hang in there. One of the things I wanted to ask you, Steve, is why don't you share a little bit about your family and how you came about attending Westland Lutheran, and maybe how long you've been attending here.
First of all, thanks, Greg, for inviting me to be here. And I appreciate your questions. They gave me pause to reflect, and I hope that I can answer them for everybody.
Great.
So we joined Westland Lutheran about 1990, I think it was. I was raised a Roman Catholic. And my first marriage did not last very long, and I ended up getting divorced. And Dee Dee and I were married. We were actually married at St. Mark's Lutheran Church in Portland. So we were married at an ELCA congregation. And then after that, when we had our two daughters, I think they were probably about 3 and 7, I had a guy who was carpooling with me down to work every day, and at least once a week he asked me, "Do you have those girls baptized yet?" Yeah. How do you answer that? I said, "I don't even have a church," and I just didn't feel comfortable with the Catholic Church, so we started looking around, and as it turned out, of course, we had St. Mark's Lutheran Church. That pastor that married us was the father of one of my Dee Dee's sorority sisters. And I felt very comfortable in that church. And our neighbor across the street at the time, they were coming to Westland. And so we started coming here. And I have to tell you, it was so comfortable for me here for a couple reasons. First, the liturgy was very similar to the Catholic, so I felt totally at home. And the people were here. We were totally welcomed and made to feel at home. So after that, we got everybody baptized, and we've been here ever since.
Time goes by quickly, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, Steve, also, I'm going to put you on the spot here a little bit. What one particular ministry here at Westland Lutheran are you passionate about, and can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I guess if I had to pick one that is my passion, it's music. Shortly after Pastor Rogie was called and began work here, he started a program of creating small groups. And I had just gone off the council at that time, but one of the council members reached out to me and asked me if I would be interested in leading a small group. My response was, could it be about anything? And it was yes. I said, well, I'd like to start a music small group. So we did that, and we went through the training for the small group leaders. And at the beginning, this small group met on Sundays in between services. People would bring instruments and their voices, and we'd just call out songs, and we'd play them and sing them. But over time, it evolved. And that small group became what is now the worship team. So it's 20 plus years, since like the 2000 or so. And what I like about the music is that Pastor Rogie taught us that God's word reaches people in different ways. Some people respond to the spoken word, like in a sermon. Others respond to the written word, like reading the Bible or reading a book. But there are others that you reach through music. And music is a very powerful medium. It conveys emotion, it conveys words and thoughts. And I think that's what brings me to it, because I love music, and his music is inside of me. And I have to say that in all the years I've been working with the music here, I just simply don't exhaust myself. It gives me energy. And so I love every minute of it, and I never get tired of it. And if my thought was, if we can reach one person sitting out there with the message through our music, it's all worth it.
As a longtime member, being able to sit in the services that you did, it was tremendous because your guitar would sing to me, and you did have a message through the strings. You know, you've been giving a long time to that ministry, like you said, 20 plus years. But you've been giving also, Steve, you and Dee Dee have been giving generously to the church as a whole. Now, is there anything you can say a little bit about that?
Well, I guess one of my aha moments was in doing Bible study. I ran across Matthew 28. The last two verses in Matthew 28, which is the last book in Matthew's gospel when Jesus is saying goodbye. And he said, "Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and teaching them how to obey everything that Jesus has taught us." Now, this is what we're called to do. And for a long time I thought that only the ordained ministry had that responsibility, but then I realized that Jesus was talking to every single one of us. So, as part of that, we have in our church, in our congregation, a great number of skills and wide variety of people. And that diversity gives us strength. And they all have interests in different ministry areas, and in order to make us flourish, we have to contribute towards that joint effort. So I think that the money that we donate to our church empowers us to fulfill that calling by Jesus to make disciples. That's why it's important to me.
My next question, you've partially answered it, but I just want to say as a side note, I remember when you stood up at one of our congregation meetings way in the back, and I was going through some tough times and deciding where I want to go with my mission, and you read that. And that has always stuck with me, that chapter of Matthew 28. So I appreciate you doing that, because that kind of lit a fire with me. But we've already hit on this a little bit, but I'd like to talk a little bit more about this. You know, you talk about your passion, you talk about your giving, you talk about your time, and obviously your talent. How do you think your giving is supporting God's work?
Well, our mission statement is to welcome all people into a trusting relationship with God through Jesus Christ. And I love that mission statement because it's so clear and concise, and there's no guess about what it's all about. Financial giving makes it possible for us to do the ministries that we have here in Westland Lutheran and to start new ministries, such as our virtual services and broadcasting that around. So the contributions that we make it possible for us to extend that invitation that's in our mission statement. That invite is the key word there, Greg, to invite all people. That's what it's all about.
I've called you many times over the past few years, and we've talked about the word invite and relationships. And you're right, that mission statement does say a lot to us. You kind of touched on this, but I'd like to go a little bit more with it. Steve, what is your greatest hope for what God might do with the gifts that you give to this church?
Well, I feel it is extremely important for us to reach out to our community and extend that invitation to all those unchurched people or people like myself who might be searching, seekers,
Yep.
to come take a look at us and develop that relationship with Jesus through God, or through Jesus with God. We have a great number of people in the state of Oregon and in the Portland area who fall into that unchurched category. And I guess you could call this whole thing evangelism, to reach out there and invite them in to spread the word. But if I had one hope, it would be to start filling our pews with some of those people. I think we all have to take responsibility for trying to do that. And so with the gifts that we give, I'd like to see that happen.
That is true witness as far as evangelism is concerned with your faith, Steve. And finally, as we wrap this up, I want to ask you this, Steve, and I'd like to ask everybody that's here, how do you feel your life is better because of your generosity?
Well, their old adage of giving is better than receiving is what I think of. When you give, you feel a heck of a lot better than when you just take. And the feelings that you get when giving is part of the reward that God gives you. That feeling of satisfaction and a connection with other people that you just can't get it any other way. And life is better, it's fuller, and it's richer when you give, particularly to help others.
Very well said. Tremendous. Steve, I can't tell you how much I appreciate your time coming in this afternoon and talking about who you are as a Christian and your dedication and your passion toward your ministry and what Westland Lutheran means to you. I'd like to challenge the rest of you as well. Not all of us are going to be able to sit up here and do this just because of time constraints. So what I'd like for you to do is I'd like for you to prayerfully consider some of the questions that I've just asked Steve in the last few minutes. And feel free to jot your thoughts down in a letter, a note, an email, and send it to me. Josh here, our communications director, is going to put my email up on the screen for you, and feel free to contact me that way. I've already had at least a dozen of you out there, and you know who you are, that have sent me emails in regards to the future of this church and where we're heading. Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? You are now putting together the profile of this congregation. So, is any closing things, Steve, that you'd like to say before we sign off here?
No, I appreciate the opportunity, Coach.
Oh, well, you're an amazing person. Both you and DD are just tremendous Christians, and you walk your talk. On behalf of our pastors here and all the people that are working behind the scenes, volunteers, we want to thank you for allowing us to come into your home and share this message with you. As we always say in the end, we're going to spread the word. We're going to spread the word, and sometimes we'll use words to do that. Thank you very much.